the door so hard that it splintered. And finally, back in Los Angeles, later that year, Heard offered text messages from Depp where he calls himself a savage and a lunatic as proof that he had assaulted her in the days before. But the judge rejected this claim, saying a physical assault was not proven. All right, still with me, trial attorney Rachel Fiset. All right, Rachel, those are some of the allegations that have been made, and they were made by Depp in that suit out in the UK, as I said. Both sides are going to bring in their evidence about these things. It's interesting, in light of what we heard today, I'm not sure it even matters, but I think it does at the end of the day, because if she's calling him an abuser, he's trying to refute those things. My first question to you is, he really has to go in, and he did so in his own testimony and some of the supporting testimony, which we'll listen to in a minute, go in and refute a lot of these things, told his own story, basically saying he wasn't involved at all in the physical violence part. He didn't throw anything, and it was her, all initiated by her. I want to get your thoughts, if you thought that he was convincing in that aspect. Remember, there are 14 incidents, so the claim would have to be she lied about 14 different instances. Your thoughts on that?
She only needs one, and I think the incidents that we have prior to the settlement agreement that they showed that's dated in 2016 would be done. I think almost we're done there. He said these are true. Now, a lot gets said in a settlement agreement, I understand, but he did admit to the truth of them at that point. So I felt like when he was blaming her and saying that he was attacked by her, and he even related it back to his mother's abuse, which I found interesting as he had gone through his childhood earlier. I don't know that that was particularly believable. I mean, he is a fairly confident man. He's showing volatility in various ways. I don't know that I'm going to necessarily believe, even though he's completely sympathetic and he was a victim of what sounds like child abuse as a child, that he would sit by and either do nothing as a result of what he's saying, or that she truly was either instigating or hurting him without him doing anything in return.
You know, his attorneys have thus far really leaned in, Rachel, on the idea that he had this addiction problem. They have not run from it. They've been open about it. He talked a lot about it. But my question to you is, I guess you have to embrace it. But the fact that that's there, I think also casts some doubt on his testimony. The idea that he could be involved in that way with addiction, drugs, and alcohol, and yet not respond in any way to all of this provocation, by his own words, by Amber Heard. I think that creates problems as well for him in terms of the way the jury might view how things went.
Of course it does. I mean, in this level of addiction, there have been many blackouts. And he probably doesn't even know what he did. So, I mean, that is absolutely, we're in a land of a likely unknown, regardless of what he says. You know, this level of addiction is so high that the volatility that it could cause, the violence that people would, I think, come in with preconceived notions of what an addict might do, absolutely hurts his case.
Yeah, and as you said, the standard here is only more likely than not. So it's like, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. So is it more likely than not that someone with that level of addiction might respond differently to those things? That's something the jury has to grapple with. I want to take a quick listen to a story he told about a situation that caused a fight. It was, he had changed a tattoo that he had gotten when he was dating Winona Ryder. She's an actress. I think probably many of our viewers know who she is. And that led to a fight. So let's take a listen real quick.
Are there any tattoos that you had that Miss Heard had an issue with, to your understanding?
Well, a tattoo that I believe is up here, which used to say Winona Forever, who was a former girlfriend. And we'd been together for a few years, Winona Ryder, and when we broke up, how do you fix that? I did go back and rewrite my journal to some degree. I took off the last two letters and had it say wino forever.
Again, so he's owning it, and ultimately, Amber had a problem with it. She started joking with him about it. He didn't like it. That led to a fight. Again, she was provoking him, at least according to his testimony. Was that believable? Again, you listen to these stories by him, and the idea is his credibility intact with these stories? And again, I want to emphasize, when you start talking about so many different stories of issues between the two of them, I feel like it just gets harder and harder to believe that he had played no role at all and he was innocent in this entire thing.
I agree with you. What I do believe is that whatever is in his mind, he doesn't think it happened. So I think there is some sort of conviction in him to go through these lengths to clear his name, that he doesn't think it happened. He believes he shouldn't be seen in this light. Perhaps there's narcissistic tendencies. Who knows what's driving his belief? But I don't think it's credible for the volatility, the admitted volatility, the evidence that even his team put forward, his stories. I don't think it's believable in a lot of ways that 14 incidents didn't happen, particularly given their, court case history.
Yeah, well, you and I disagree, but I can tell you this. We did an informal poll on courttv.com, and essentially 78% of the people responding said that they believed him and they thought that his stories rang true. So that just tells you a little bit there. And it was interesting. I was paying attention to some of the comments. We put up comments on the right side of the screen. And one person said, to be quite honest, I don't know who to believe and who did what. And someone else said, I hope the jury says no to both of them. And I don't know, I think that sums up a lot of what's going on in this case. Rachel, it's just crazy. All right, stand by. We're going to take a quick break right now. Stay right here because we are only halfway through the list of 14 allegations made by Amber Heard against Johnny Depp. When we come back, we're going to take a look at numbers 6 through 14, including the incident where Johnny Depp lost the tip of his finger. So keep it right here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Fully licensed everything.
I'm Chanley Painter in Fairfax, Virginia for the Johnny Depp defamation case. And this is Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
In Australia, when you heard Ben talk about Australia, he wrote the third day as Amber comes out after she's barricaded herself and gone through a lot, and I'll back up on that in a minute. She comes out, he's got mashed potatoes spread across the top. He's written along the wall of the staircase going down all kinds of nasty things about her. And Billy Bob Thornton, the last one she was in a co-star. Mirrors. And then, on top of it, you've got all the broken glass everywhere, and you've got the liquor everywhere, and it's just, and then he's tried to urinate messages to her.
All right, it's not pretty, folks. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. We are continuing to make our way through the list of allegations made against Johnny Depp by his ex-wife, Amber Heard, based on her testimony in Depp's libel suit brought in the UK. Now, there are 14 incidents in which Heard accused Depp of abusing her. The court in the UK ruled on them, finding that 12 were more likely than not to have occurred. So we're going to pick right up back in 2015. First one in a Tokyo hotel room. While attending a premiere, Depp allegedly shoved, slapped, and grabbed Heard by the hair. Then in March of 2015, Heard says over 3 days in Australia, he had assaulted her multiple times. She says he severed his own finger before scrawling graffiti in his blood on the walls. Then back in Los Angeles, again in 2015, Heard said that Depp had hit her hard and repeatedly before trying to push her down some stairs. Then in Southeast Asia in August, the judge accepted Heard's account that while on the Eastern and Oriental train, Depp had hit her, pushed her against the wall, and grabbed her by the throat. Then on Thanksgiving of that year, Heard said that Depp had thrown her around the room and thrown a wine glass and decanter at her. The judge in the UK actually rejected that claim as not being credible. About a month later, Heard claimed while in their penthouse, Depp threw things at her, headbutted her, and pulled large chunks of hair from her scalp. All this the day before Heard's appearance on James Corden's Late Late Show. In April of 2016, Heard claimed Depp had arrived late and high for her 30th birthday dinner, and after everyone had left, he threw bottles, smashed glasses, and grabbed her hair again. And the next day, feces was found on the couple's bed. We heard testimony today from Depp that he thought it was Heard and her friends. And finally, of May of 2016, Heard says Depp threw a phone at her, allegedly smashed items, and kicked a hole in a door at their apartment. After this, Heard filed a petition for the dissolution of her marriage and applied for a domestic restraining order against him. All right, still with me, trial attorney Rachel Gazay, and that restraining order and some of the issues rising from that were what we heard about at the end of court today. But again, I want to go back to these incidents that he's talking about, that she testified to, that we're probably going to hear about later on in this case when she takes the stand. The question I have for you is, as he sits there, and we know that a judge in the UK heard these stories, heard him tell his story, heard Amber tell her story, decided that 12 of the 14 were more likely than not to have actually happened the way Amber says they did. But the truth of the matter is, speaking to a judge and speaking to a jury are two different things, or are they not? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I absolutely think they're two different things. Speaking to you and speaking, as you just evidenced, there's a whole host of people that come in with very different biases coming in, different constructs, and frankly, they just see facts different ways. So when you ask 12 different people, likelihood is you'll see 12 different reactions. And a judge is likely a bit more jaded, a little more, I think, likely to suss out some credibility issues where a jury may be less trained in that naturally because they see it less. So I think that speaking to a judge and speaking to a jury is very different. A jury trial is quite different than a bench trial, particularly when you think about what a judge in the UK might be, which is, again, a whole other difference than an American jury, particularly where Johnny Depp is just such a superstar. So he has a better shot here of winning this case than he had in the UK case, even though the showing of the incidents would be similar, because he's talking to an American jury and not a British judge.
Yeah, I have to agree. That certainly works in his favor. But something that works against him is his mega stardom. And while sitting there on that stand that could help him, certainly there's an aura, there's his voice, which I think booms through the courtroom. Chanley Painter mentioned that to us yesterday. But at the end of the day, it means that there's a higher standard for him as a public figure. Remind our viewers of that higher standard and just how difficult that may be for him.
Right. There's a higher standard in defamation for a public figure, which I haven't heard talked about that much yet, in that there is a malice requirement. Amber Heard would have had to work maliciously to be defaming him because as a public figure, more people talk about you. And so there is more leeway in the law for what is true and what is not true as it relates to public figures. And so he's got to jump several hurdles as the superstar that he is to get to the point where she was defaming him. So it has to be false and it has to be malicious, meaning she had to know it was false and she had to do it basically for the purpose of hurting his reputation, et cetera.
Now, do you think he has the horses for that? I mean, we're hearing a lot of, and it makes sense why they're bringing in all this information about what type of person that Amber Heard is. We've heard testimony that she had a tendency to be mean to certain people. Certainly in the testimony from Johnny Depp about the way she treated him, there was certainly a lot of malice in that. Do you think he has the horses to get to that level to show that not only did she recklessly disregard the truth, but that she really wanted to hurt him by doing so?
I think that thus far we are seeing that even on a regular defamation case, she would, I mean, in my opinion, given all of the allegations, given the admission in the settlement agreement between them, given the restraining order, given the known volatility of the relationship and the addiction issues, that if he were not a superstar, let's put him as a regular person, not superstar power, I think it would be more likely than not that a jury would find in her favor. And then I think, Michael, we have a whole other thing. Because he is a superstar, people are more likely maybe to believe his story and give him more credibility with his booming voice and truly the love that Johnny Depp has garnered from his fans through time. So then that kind of puts him back in a position where maybe it's more likely than not that he'd be believed here. But then we go back to the malice. And so she has to be acting maliciously to hurt him. And that's where the question is gonna lie.
Yeah, you just did a fantastic job of explaining why that standard exists the way it exists, because that's exactly right. It's sort of to counteract what you're talking about, the fact that the effect of the star on the jury, on the legal system, it's sort of counteracting that by making it a little bit of a higher standard. So let's go back and listen to him in the courtroom again. Here's where he's talking about, this is one of the major incidents they're talking about where his finger got cut off. Because of that, they had to actually stop the filming of Pirates 5. It was a big issue at the time. They both have two diametrically opposed stories. She says he did it to himself while he was going crazy. He says she threw something at him and cut it. Let's listen to his story real quick.
I opened the bottle and I poured myself a shot and drank it. Ms. Heard was flinging insults left, right, and center, and she then grabbed that bottle and threw that at me. If this was the bar and I'm sitting here like this, she would grab the bottle and she would go there. She went there. And so I was leaning like this in the chair, looking at her. First bottle went, then got the other bottle shot. Takes the second bottle, which was the larger one. I'm in this position again, and my hand is on the edge of the bar, like that, you know, leaning over, the fingers like that, and she threw the large bottle, and it made contact and shattered everywhere. And I honestly didn't feel the pain.
All right, so a couple of things here, Rachel, with judging the credibility of that. I want to call up this note that was written by the doctor who came to see him. It was his own doctor, someone he trusted. And basically, he explains to the doctor what happens. The doctor wrote this up, and he says, Johnny told me about the fight with his girlfriend, and that he basically tells him to stay away from her, right? But what we also learn is that when he goes to the emergency room right after the incident, he says he lied. He didn't tell them exactly what happened. And I want to get your thoughts on how important those two things are. You have someone you trust, you tell them what you say is the truth. Then when you go to the hospital, when they're going to treat you, you don't tell them the truth. How do those things sort of match up, and how does a jury read that? Oh, it looks like she's get frozen there. All right, we'll work to get her back. What we're gonna do now, take a quick break right now. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion of this case and Johnny Depp's time on the stand. But remember, we asked you guys, do you